Well, Annie might not even make it. She said there was an emergency up there. She didn't know she'd make it. No, it was hours ago. She just said I might not make it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? What does that mean?
Well, you're not sitting over here now. On swim beach. Ray doesn't have anything to say, so he's not sitting.
You banished him out to there.
You don't have anything to say, so you're not sitting over there.
Yeah, that's only the important people.
Oh wow. I'm showing 6. Are you're good to go all the way around? I'm not, because I don't have my gavel out. Gotta have it. Let's call this thing to order. All right. We'd like to call to order our city council meeting for Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. Let the record show that all members of the council are present, with the exception of Councilor Hanson, who is excused. We also have members of the city staff here, and we welcome our visitors tonight as well. We have asked Councilor Richter if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise. Join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilor Richter, and I have asked Councilor Arnold if he would offer our invocation.
Our Father in heaven, we thank thee for this day. We're thankful for our many blessings and opportunities that we have. We're grateful for the blessing that our country provides for us, as in our country, in our state, in our county, in our town, our city of Riverdale. We ask to bless the employees of the city, that they'll know of their service that they provide to us is greatly appreciated. We greatly appreciate the first responders and the public works and all of the city staff that are behind the scenes, that aren't thanked for the things that they do, that we acknowledge them and all that they do and create our community for us. We're grateful for those that are serving on the city council and the planning commission, and ask that you bless each one of them, that they might have some vision on how we would create a community that would be pleasing unto thee, and that would make a harmonious environment for us to live in, and bless their families as they deal with many of the things that we deal with, that they also are troubled as they ponder some of the things that come before us. We're so grateful that we're able to serve thee in this capacity, and ask that thou would be pleased in the decisions that we make. And we ask for these blessings and the Spirit to be with us, in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilor Arnold. Okay. We'll now move on to public comment. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding your concerns or ideas. No action will be taken during the public comment period. If you do approach the mic, please state the city in which you reside and try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to presentations and reports. For the mayor's report, I have just a couple of things. We do have the Weber County Legislative Dinner on Friday night. I am not able to attend that, but I would really like to see some representation from Riverdale there. Oh, great. I think Councilor Stevens is trying to make it as well. Like I said, I want to make sure that Riverdale is, and you're going to go too? Yeah, is in with the county as much as we can, and interacting with them. And so that's a great opportunity to go and have a nice steak dinner and maybe participate in the fair a little bit. We also have the upcoming Utah League of Cities and Towns annual conference on October 1st and 2nd. It's probably time to let Miss Maragoni know if we're planning on going to that and what days you're going to attend. So let her know so she can get us registered. We have a couple of ribbon cuttings coming up next week. We're excited about that. It looks like the Mission Barbecue will be on Tuesday at 11:30. Tuesday. Is that the 12th? Yeah, the 12th. Tuesday the 12th at 11:30. So hopefully you guys can make that. We're excited for that. And then is Panera a go on Wednesday?
Yet to be determined.
Okay. There's a possibility that Panera will happen on Wednesday the 13th. So it's crazy those both happen 2 days apart. Like, They've both taken a long time to get done, so it's exciting they're getting finished.
I reached out to the commissioners and to Chuck and invited them, gave them a personal invitation to
Great.
it. So they both said they all said they'd be there. Chuck's going to bring some of his friends, so we'll see.
That's good. Our relationship with the chamber is better than it has been in the past, and it's good to have them on board as partners. And I think they understand where we're coming from now. I've talked to Chuck a little bit lately, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that's kind of smoothed over because it was a little rough there for a while. And that's all I have for the mayor's report. City council assignment reports. Would anyone like to report on any of their assignments? Okay. We will move on to number 3, the UDOT presentation about the bridge replacement project. We're excited for that, so come on up to the microphone here and state your name, and let's get you guys both up here. This is
There's
a big
room
project.
for us both, right?
There's going to be lots of questions, and so we're excited to
That's why I want him here.
get all the information. Yes.
Well, thanks for having us. My name is Aubrey Benyon. I'm managing the public outreach for UDOT on behalf of this project.
I'm Kevin Griffin, and I am the field engineer for Horrocks/UDOT on the project.
So, big things are coming to Riverdale and to the area, and I just first want to acknowledge drivers are probably very exhausted with construction, and that's not lost on us. I am managing a couple of projects through West Point, Clinton, kind of just up through this whole area, and I am reminded that I started working on some of these projects in 2020, and we have construction completion dates on some of the rest of them in 2029. So we are here, and we want to be good neighbors, and we want to make sure that the residents clearly know how to get around through the area and know how to call me if they need to, right? I know that the city is sometimes the front line of defense on residential complaints and questions, even on issues that don't have to do with the city. So we just want to make sure that we're good partners through it all, and that the information is being shared in all of the channels that we can share it. So not new news to you, but 3 bridges are being replaced on 4400 South over under I-15, I-84, right? So we've got 4400 South over I-15 and I-84 over 4400 South. There's 2 bridges right there for a total of 3, and those are being replaced. Construction, we had a method. We had a method for constructing this, and then once the contractor got on board, they suggested a different method. So it has our team working in rapid fire and communicating out here in short order before they start construction, which is scheduled to begin this coming Monday, the 11th. I will also add, you don't have to go back to that last slide, but if you remember last year, we had that pothole that formed on one of those I-84 ramps, which was a sure sign. Nobody ever wants that to happen, but if you ever need proof that our bridges are ready to be replaced, that was our evidence that these bridges are due for replacement. So, as I'd mentioned, work will begin on August 11th. There's a lot of words on this schedule graphic, but I want you to pay attention to right now the between Cozydale and Airport Road, or 1600 West. That stretch closes August 11th in preparation for the demolition of that bridge over I-15. UDOT typically does not close things in total. We do things in halves. We bend over backwards. We work at night. Anyway, the contractor had proposed to close this one in total beginning on Monday through right before Black Friday, right before Thanksgiving. And that is a change from the conversations that we had been having for the last year as we go through design. And we'll get to a slide here in a little bit, but that's kind of the biggest thing that we want people to know most immediately. I'm concerned about patrons using the airport, right? Thinking they can get off in one exit and find their way around. We know those minutes just prior to catching a flight they all matter. And so we would like to funnel all of the airport passengers up to 31st Street. So we just lessen the traffic in this area for those folks. bridge demolition will occur for that 4400 South over I-15 the Saturday night to Sunday morning of August 22nd into the 23rd into the 24th, Saturday night. Very rarely does UDOT close both directions of I-15 at the same time, but the condition of this bridge is such that it is going to come down in one swoop. And so we just got some we're approving traffic control plans to detour traffic off of I-15 using, what roads will they be using?
So northbound will be coming using the Riverdale Road off-ramp on northbound. All traffic will be coming down to the 84 ramps and for northbound onto I-15 again. Southbound will be using the 84 flyover to Riverdale Road and up to the loop ramp to come back on southbound I-15.
Overnight,
That's overnight.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was it, 20?
the 23rd through the
23rd.
24th.
Yep.
Okay.
Saturday night into Sunday morning.
Okay.
Riverdale sleeps then, don't they? Right?
You do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's not the issue. It's everybody
Everybody
uses the freeway.
That's right.
I hope everyone in northern Utah is asleep that night. I mean, do you want to speak to, do we know traffic numbers or
Usually what happens
UDOT's?
when we close or detour off of I-15, you're pretty heavy until about 11 o'clock. After that, traffic usually flows quite well until about 5:30, 6 in the morning. We intend to be off the road by then. I've spent 27 years working for UDOT before I came to Horrocks, so, but that is the plan, is to get in. Part of the reason we're doing this as well is this is one of the oldest structures that's still standing in Utah, and it's a cast-in-place structure. And when you demo these, they tend to want to fall down on their own. We had one we had demoed a couple years ago, and it was up in Box Elder County, and they did the one half one night, and came back the next night, and they hit it once with the hammer, and the whole thing fell down. So it's really a safety issue of why this has been proposed to do this way. And plus, we'll be in and out much quicker, and Aubrey can explain that as well. And there's a significant cost savings to the department.
They said one other thing because of what you've said, but they said it's super close to that pedestrian bridge, and they're worried it's going to buckle over there and hit that pedestrian bridge and take
Now,
it.
we'll make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Well, that's part of taking it all down and not piece by
Yeah.
piece.
Yes, absolutely.
Piece by
Yeah.
piece.
Come down in one, is it like
We
a
don't,
building come
we don't
down?
expect it, when we start it to come down in one piece, but once you have, and because we will demo both sides at the same time and moving through, so we don't have that camber offset issue you might get to where you could have a collapse on one side or the other. We're pretty confident that if they keep in unison as they demo the middle part, then they'll come back out and demo the bents and the center bents out as well.
Wondering if we should get some fireworks in there.
Make a moment of it, right?
I've never seen that.
But we're protected.
Get a video
There's
of it,
There's a
at
demolition plan in place. The I-15 is basically protected by at least a minimum of 12 inches of sand bed that they'll put down, so falling material basically falls on that, and then we'll just move it off the side of the road before we open for traffic, and then we'll clean that up.
While we sleep,
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of amazing to see all
No,
the
yeah,
things,
they're
all
awesome.
that they do in such,
Yep.
a short time frame. Okay, so that was one bridge. The other two, the ramps, I-84 over 4400. On August 22nd,
Yes.
August 22nd, 4400 under the I-84 ramps will close. So it's that next section between the two roundabouts. That will close while contractor builds up the bridge walls from 4400 South up. That will be closed for 6 weeks. So for about 7 weeks, that whole stretch between Airport Road and Parker will be closed. And then 6 weeks in, Parker to Cozydale will open, and it is just 4400 up and over that will remain closed until November. I know this is a lot and over, under, and, I've been racking my brain of how to best communicate this in the most concise way to the residents and to everybody who travels this way. I think it will be tough at first, and then I think everyone will find their path. They'll find their groove. They know how to get around this area, the locals do. And so we will have it signed with a clear detour. And I hope people take that one, but they will also just know their local way around. So I anticipate a lot of probably frustration, realistically, and confusion at first, and then people will settle in. So that 6-week closure, that puts us into October sometime, and then through the springtime, crews will be building the upper pieces, the deck of the I-84 bridges. Those 2 red rectangles I have there, they'll build those just right off site, and then over a weekend they demolish I-84 and they move those bridges in. So it's a lot faster than this 3-month thing for the I-15.
Yeah, once that opens back from Parker Drive to Cozy-Dale, the construction of those structures will still be taking place. They'll be taking place through the winter. Hoping on time frame and temperatures to when we pour the decks and whatnot, but there's a lot of other work, pile driving, abutments, and that have to be built first. But it is the intent right now of the contractor's schedule to slide those bridges in place on 2 different weekends, one weekend and then the other on another, in a 3 to 4 day period, usually 3. They'll slide those in, continue and finish all the road work, and then the next weekend or the weekend after that, they do the other structure as well.
So we will still have the old bridges for another winter.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, those bridges will be in place.
We're a little concerned. I know the contractor is too. And I was telling the project manager for UDOT, Corey, that I said, you know what, you keep replacing sections of that bridge, we're not going to have to replace it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, imagine.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
I understand the sliding in. I've seen it done at different places. So I imagine that one bridge deck will be built on offsite on one side and the other one on the other side.
So the westbound bridge will be built on the east side, because as westbound comes, they're basically headed north. We're built on the east side, and the eastbound structure will be built in the median. Now, initially, it was planned to have that one built on the far side of I-84 on that west side, but it was a complicated operation to have to lower that bridge down because of the grade change you have in 4400 right there, and then slide it into place. By doing it in the median, they can build it at grade. We'll still have clearance for when we open up from Parker to Cozy-Dale Drive for what is required, a minimum 14 feet to 14 foot to get vehicles under there. And then they'll be able to slide it into place without having to lower it, because that's a complicated operation. So this simplifies the operation significantly.
And the other question I have is that roundabout
Which one?
on Parker Drive
Okay.
is very close to the underpass.
It is. It is.
And will it be
Accessible? Yes.
the whole time? If you don't expect that the upper part of the roundabout will have to be closed as they do any of the building? Okay.
You'll still be able to, traffic coming down Parker Drive will still be able to use that and get down to, say, 4800 to come over to Riverdale Road.
Yeah.
Okay, on the 2 bridges going over 84 between Parker and Cozy-Dale. Can't remember when it was exactly. It was a few years ago, not that long ago, maybe 5, 6 years, 8 years ago, I don't remember. They kind of widened it to what they could to put a sidewalk, because there was not a sidewalk there.
Yes.
And I guess my question is, since that whole thing's going to be done, is that going to be widened? Because they couldn't widen it much more because of the pillars.
Right. There will be, so on the section that's widened right now is a soil nail wall that has the murals in it, and it is the intent as well to salvage the murals and replace them. The existing wall will be extended, and there will be a new soil nail wall placed on that north side as well. So the area you have underneath there will widen a little bit from what you see today. Yeah.
So it'll still be 2 lanes.
Yes.
Will there be a sidewalk on both sides or just on the one side?
I can't.
Or
I don't recall.
I don't recall.
I would imagine,
doesn't matter.
do you have, does the
there
sidewalk connect
It doesn't.
bigger than this? Then we,
There is
One
not.
side, and the bridge will be widened up underneath to do 3 lanes eventually.
Yes. And there's no sidewalk on that west side of Parker Drive coming down to that location anyway. So the sidewalk, I mean, you could eventually put a sidewalk on that side if you would like to in the future on 4400. But you'll still have the sidewalk that is on the south side.
Just, Mr. Douglas, are you monitoring, because we've talked about, and not to get into it on this conversation here, but we've talked about, multi-lanes instead of just two, going 3 or 4 on all of the bridges, or?
So the top bridge, the one over I-15 will be able to accommodate 4 lanes.
Yes.
The one underneath 84 will accommodate 3 lanes in the future if needed.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, but you're staying on top of that, okay.
We've been meeting every month.
So you're
for-
okay.
And pedestrian traffic
year
will
or
still
plus.
have access throughout the project timeframe, and including using the structure over the PED structure over I-15. So we will make sure that PED traffic can still walk
Yeah,
through
you
there.
can do the next. I think these talking points are on.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're just fine. You're fine. The pet overpass will remain in place throughout construction. So even though the bridge with the cars will be down, pedestrian access will remain.
Okay, so
in place.
pedestrian access, so a person can walk up 4400 all the way from Parker, pedestrian-wise?
Yeah, the way they can now, we're not removing the pedestrian
Okay,
overpass over
you're just
I-15.
going over I-15.
Yeah, that will not come down as a part of this
Well,
project.
okay,
It stays
so-
there throughout
So they
construction.
would only go from Cozydale to Roy, they couldn't come to,
Yes, so all the way from Parker over to Roy across.
There'll be a path.
There'll be a path.
okay.
Yep.
We are
We'll
maintaining
maintain-
existing
Yep.
pedestrian traffic during construction,
Yes.
including the overpass over I-15.
All right, thank
Yeah.
you.
Emergency vehicles will not be able to cross when the bridge comes down over I-15. They will not be able to cross I-15 without that bridge there. They will, during that 6-week closure of 4400 under the I-84 ramps, even though we will have it closed to traffic, the guys can move the barrels. They can allow, they can accommodate for an emergency when needed. That's relatively simple. We're just not keeping, 20,000 cars flowing a day.
But at night, they won't have access because there'll be no one to move the barrels. Is that correct? Or there were some questions with UDOT about that at
I don't
night.
know the answer to
With their
that.
schedule, there is night work planned.
Okay.
But not all the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there will be times that there will be nobody there to move the barrels. From a safety standpoint, it'd probably be a good idea to partner again with Roy City, and maybe even if you had to position equipment at Roy City, if that was the case, to service that side if needed during that time frame. Or just make sure the calls, if it is on the basically west side of I-15, or northwest side of I-15, to basically have Roy respond.
But the east side, like under 84, that's not going to be open at night for our emergency vehicles, or will it?
Sounds like
So when we build
sometimes.
those structures,
During that 6-week closure,
during the 6 weeks, no.
No.
let's
They will.
assume no.
Yes.
I will also just say tomorrow morning the fire chief is coming to our meeting to
Okay,
continue to
just make
coordinate
sure.
these details.
That
Yeah, but that's
that they're
yeah.
all
when we
very
close
clear.
out, they will not have access to come up to Cozydale.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just gone back and forth a couple of times on
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
the final, make sure whatever final thing is, it's
Everyone
very
understands it.
clear.
Yeah. The other thing, I mentioned the airport access, but UTA Route 640, they will suspend in these limits. They basically between 4400 South and 1900 South. So users, and they say that the users in this area is very low. That's why they felt comfortable closing the routes, but users will be directed down to Riverdale and then 1150 and so forth. So they will have bagged, I don't know if they've already done it, but bagged their stops here when construction starts on Monday.
Once the I-15 structure is open, it's scheduled to be completed by November 25th before the holiday. Then UTA will have access to be able to start their bus route again through that area.
Speaking of our public outreach efforts, we are in the process of, so we always have our weekly email updates and we're building up our mailing list. Some of it is existing through the environmental and design phase, but we're going to make sure that every front desk employee, every secretary of every department is going to be on that list. And along with members of the community. So we have our website, email, hotline. Those have all been active through the design phase. I anticipate a lot more activity once we get into construction. We are planning for a Meet the Contractor open house, and I will reach out to a secretary somewhere to see if there's a room available here that we could possibly host that at within the next few weeks. I think once people see what is coming here, their antennas will go up, and they'll want to know what's happening. And then we are crafting social media content for each city's social media. These maps, any of this material, I'm happy to, if you want to download it, if you want to share this presentation on your city website, you're welcome to. But anything that we create, we'll share and provide access to the city. We want to be able to share newsletter, however frequently your newsletter comes out. We can provide an update within the newsletter, and then we are sending out a postcard mailer as soon as we identify that day of the open house. It will be a construction has started. Here's the impacts. Here's the benefits. Come learn more in person. And then, as just mentioned in this previous slide, we're coordinating with emergency services, school districts for buses and things, and UTA. This is the project teams. So Aubrey and Cameron works for me with email, website, and hotline number. So available to everyone all the time. If you want to hit next. And then some of the benefits of this. It was a bit of a last minute change to go this method, and I know this isn't new news. Before we talked through it, UDOT had gone through the pros and cons with Riverdale, but this saves about 6 months. This method of demoing I-15, the 44 over I-15 in one swoop will save about 6 months on the overall schedule. We anticipated a 18-month construction schedule, and now we're assuming we'll be done in 10 or 11 months, which is amazing for 3 bridges.
And the roundabout at Cozy-Dale will receive new hot mix asphalt as well.
Yeah.
All the way around.
Yeah, there was the time savings. There's some dollar savings. It's about $500,000 in cost savings. And then the contractor is adding in a few other, this asphalt that benefits the city. It's, paving a city-owned road. So I've been doing this for 20 years. You've been doing it for more than that. Very rarely have I seen something kind of flip on its schedule like this. And so we are in action to make sure it happens, and it happens, in a way that is beneficial to everybody and lowest amount of frustration. So I think that's what I've got for you. Any other questions about the project?
Mayor, could I just say something?
Yeah.
If you look at this, when this started out about 2 years ago, when they first came to us and talked about the replacement of these bridges, they were just going to replace them as is. And now we're not only getting bigger and longer and wider bridges, but all these other things. They're saving our artwork. We're getting pavement out of this. I mean, to UDOT's credit, they've really, really worked with us, and they've communicated with this most recent meeting we just had a couple of weeks ago when we put all this together. They knew what our reaction was going to be when they come in and said, can we shut this down for this time period? And in fairness to them, they've really tried to work it. One of our concerns was public safety access, and they've been over backwards. So thank you to UDOT. They've really done a nice job on this, and it's been a good thing for Riverdale. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Any questions?
thank you. Thanks for giving us some time.
Yeah, thanks. And just make sure we have that contact info at our fingertips. So.
Did you download? You saved it? Okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. We'll now move on to presentation item number 4, notice of proposed tax increase from the Central Weber Sewer Improvement District. Like I said, this is a legal requirement that we make the council aware that they are intending to increase the sewer rates. They're going to have a truth in taxation meeting on April 18th. We have this in a public meeting just so our residents can be aware. It's just one more way in case you get questions about it. Hopefully you're able to read that in the packet.
What was the date again?
The 18th is the Truth in Taxation.
Of
That
August?
should be a Monday, yeah, April 18th. Yeah, that's right. Any questions on that or any? Okay. All right, there are no consent items tonight, so we'll move on to action items. Number 1, consideration of resolution 2025-28, renewing a contract with Robinson Waste Services for garbage and recycling services. Mr. Douglas.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Everybody's seen this contract before. It's a yearly renewal basis. The rates that are in there, we've already approved. They're the ones we approved for this budget year. They're in the fee schedule, so that's all been taken care of. Steve and Lance are here from Robinson, if you have any questions for them. But I think, as far as our department, it's a great partnership. They do a lot for us. They always step up in the emergencies or when we have something go wrong and need dumpsters, or we need the garbage dumped on the 4th of July. Like, they send a guy out on his day off to get us dumped or whatever they need to do. So I want to thank them. And then if you have any questions for me, or if you have any questions for Steve and his team.
Any questions or comments?
And Steve, if you want to come up and say a word, I don't know, I'll put you on the spot. Come up and I think.
Appreciate very much the relationship over the years and the opportunity to take care of the trash. And you know, we were talking to the county and the recycling is the cleanest they said they have in the county. So just thought you'd be interested in that they brag about Riverdale City's recycling, how well it's being participated in and how well they do at recycling the right things. So it's hats off to a lot of work to do in some of the cities in Weber, so, but not Riverdale. So.
Uh-huh.
But we sure appreciate the opportunity to, over the years, to partner with the city and take care of the trash, and it's been great working with you.
Do you tell them a little bit about how much the curbside's grown over the years?
On the cleanup, it seems like it doubles every year. So they're on to us. They know about the program, and it's well participated in now. So first few years it was a little sketchy, but
now it's turned into pretty much a double day deal, right?
Yeah,
usually 2 days.
And I don't have the tonnage figures with me, Sean, but it's people like it. You know, if you remember when we used to take it to the park, it was people had to load it, and it was funny to see some of the vehicles come in with stuff strapped to their roofs and in their cars. But they got it there, and this is a little more convenient for them, and I think they like it.
Councilor Arnold.
Just a question, it really doesn't have anything to do with the contract, but your transfer station, I had somebody from the county call me and said, hey, you guys have a problem because there's a 6-month contract with the county using the transfer station. Is that all worked out? And
yes.
Yeah, we worked that all out.
We had
We're
a
good.
little discussion in the work session about it. So yeah, we're good on that right now.
I mean, it's none of my business. You take it where you take it, you know.
Yeah.
It's good, but they were like, hey, man, you got a problem.
Yeah, it's taken care of. It was just a little bit of confusion on what went where, and so it's documented. They've been checking up on it, making sure it's been getting there. So.
Good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see any changes or any substantial changes there, but no changes between these contracts from this year to next year.
Just the dollar amount.
Just those things.
And then there's also one more dumpster in there in case we need it at the Public Works, just because of the amount of trash we've been getting at Riverdale Park. Like we've been filling 3 dumpsters the last 3 weeks, and like it's been super heavy, and so there is one extra one included in there in case we need it. We don't anticipate taking that right now, but if next spring happens to stay like it is now, that's a possibility. So really not any changes.
It's always a pleasure renewing it. I mean, I get so many compliments about, the twice yearly pickup. The residents love it. And you guys come back and pick up cans that people say that they missed, but it always questioned whether they were actually out,
We don't argue.
I know you don't. And I appreciate that. And people will tell them, oh, I called them and they came back and got mine. And that's worth so much as an elected official to have a good company that will just take care of stuff. So anyway, it's always a pleasure for me to renew this.
Some of the education you brought to us, I'm watching to see if they're dumping it and leaving the can or the lid open when you were talking about that, and I'm like, hey dude, I would catch you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they do a great job. Great job.
We, they go up my street, turn around and come back the other way. So if I miss them and I happen to hear them, I can run out and take
Get
it
across the street.
But I was going to say, when I was on my mission in Taiwan, the garbage trucks play music. As they go around.
Sell ice cream.
There you go.
That was the joke. Every time a new missionary would show up, the ice cream truck coming around, he's like, "Go get us some ice cream." It turned out the garbage truck. But if they had that, then it would be a little bit easier to know when they pass. But
Yeah.
You have to add music. I don't know which channel you're going to play though.
That's
You're redoing the contract. You'll do anything we want.
right.
Speakers and
Yeah.
Symphony or
Yeah.
rap? What do you want?
All right. Any other questions?
I wouldn't suggest it because the recycling guy comes by my house really, really early.
Yeah, that's true.
I
Yeah.
don't want to be woken up by that.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay. Do we have someone that's willing to make a motion on this? Councillor Haas.
Move to approve resolution number 2025-28, authorizing renewal of agreement with Robinson Waste Services for garbage and recycling services within Riverdale City.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, and two.
Mike Dick.
Any discussion on that motion? Ms. Maragona, will you please poll the council?
Counselor Arnold,
yes.
Counselor Richter,
Yes.
Counselor Hanson, Counselor Halls,
Yes.
Counselor Stevens.
Yes.
All right, perfect. That passes unanimously. Thank you. And thank you to Robinson for taking care of us so well. We'll move on to item number 2, consideration of resolution 2025-29, adopting a policy regarding city-sponsored and city-associated events and activities. Mr. Brooks.
Thanks, Mayor. This is something that we've needed for a long time. We've just never done it. We continually get asked different programs and organizations, about will the city be part of this and whatnot. But I think we need a framework, and we don't have anything. We've just been winging it, and we do it on a case-by-case basis, and we're all over the place. And so this is kind of designed to bring all that into one. And so I've listed out some criteria on when we will do it and why we will do it and all that kind of stuff. I protected the council. If this costs money, if it's a fully sponsored, then we got to bring it back to mayor and council. If it's a partial, then we can handle that administratively kind of thing. And the money's lesser on that. So if it's in our budget, maybe it's something we could do. But ideally, we want to have this in place so that we're consistent in whatever we do. It affects a number of things throughout the city, in particular our sign ordinances, where we're all over the place now, and it's hard for us to enforce it because we don't know what we can enforce and what we can't, because we kind of bounce around. I think this zeroes that in, and it brings it back into where, unless it is city-sponsored or either fully or partially, then those signs would be continued to be prohibited like they always have been. So I think this just cleans up how we operate and makes it consistent. So it's been long overdue, and unless you have some questions on that, it was pretty self-explanatory on how the whole thing works and operates. So,
Any questions for Mr. Brooks? Councillor Haas.
On the first criteria, or the second one, prohibited sponsorships, political advocacy, is that other than Meet the Canada night? That
Well, it would be, I've listed that down there further, that it's if we can't side with a particular candidate. As always, the city has to stay neutral. As far as we can sponsor events, we just can't take a position on it. So that's the idea behind that one, is that we're just not going to take a position either between a party or a candidate. That would get us in trouble with some federal laws anyway, so we don't want to go there. But as far as hosting an event, I think we'd be fine on that. But that was another good example. So you had the Republican Party came in and they wanted to use our facilities. Well, they wanted that, so they got them for free. But all these things have just been popping up. The farmers market's another one, and like, what do we do and what don't we do and what can we do or can't do? So I'm just trying to get this cleaned up, and I think that would help us on all those events. I think we could still do that one again there because, we weren't fully sponsored, but this was a discussion that Rich and I had. By giving them a room or the facility to do that, we were a partial sponsor on that. So then it gives us a little bit more leeway on something like that. But we're not taking a position behind Republicans or Democrats or any one particular party on that. We're still staying neutral on those things.
Councilor Arnold?
I had a question on the inclusive part. I mean, how are we gonna enforce it if somebody has a problem with something? I mean, we have some sort of event that the police are providing some sort of security and somebody starts saying something about something.
Well, I mean, our statutes are still in place. We're not changing any of those. So if it's a violation of a statute, we're still covered on that. And there's a number of places in here where I put this is fully at the discretion of the city. So we don't
Mike's off.
hit it with my arm there. We don't have to support anybody if we don't want. And even if it gets in the middle of it, like you're saying, and it starts getting out of hand, we can pull out of it right there and withdraw it right at the moment if we have to. So I think it still gives us the authority to do everything we've done. It's just written and documented this way. As it stands right now, we have nothing. And so even the event there on that one Saturday and stuff like that, I mean, that all these things have all these questions, and it's kind of like, well, what do we do? Because she had rented a pavilion, but she hadn't rented the whole park, and it turned into a whole park event kind of thing. But that one would have been one that if we'd had this in place, we would have had a little bit more teeth and said, you're only allowed to do certain things because that's not city sponsored, so you can't do what you did. So we still have the same grounds we had before. We're just going to be more consistent than what we have been. And especially with these organizations where we got 1 foot in and 1 foot out, the farmers market, CTC's another one, we do give them a little bit of money, so that they technically fall into the second category. It's not a full sponsor, but a partial sponsorship. And so just like with that lady that came in, I mentioned this in the pre-planning, Alan, there's a lady that came in yesterday, and I think she was from the church, and they're doing a clothing sale or an exchange or something like that. She came in and wanted to put these signs up all over the place. Well, that's not really something that we get involved in. And so technically, the city property wouldn't be available for her to put a sign up. But as I expressed to her, under our signs, she may be able to do it on some private properties, depending on where it was at. And I noticed there was one up by the church today, or on the church property line there. But that would be one we wouldn't take a position on. We wouldn't want to get involved in where it involved a particular religion or something like that. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a problem with the Meet the Candidates night with the Republican Party being involved. It really shouldn't have, because we're nonpartisan, but by having them sponsor that or do it, I'm retired now, but had he not been, that would have been a problem.
Right, under that Hatch Act or whatever that is, yeah. And that's always a concern, and that would be one we probably would have declined under this policy. It just said, no, you're kind of on your own, but they were looking for a place. We didn't have one. We generally do something anyway, so it's going, well, maybe we'll let them use a room and not charge them for that. So this policy gives us that options where we can give them free rooms or spaces or whatever. So.
Okay, just to follow up, and it's slightly off topic, but in the future, that Meet the Candidates, now we haven't had a primary in ages, and we usually do a Meet the Candidate that's city sponsored, or the city puts on, in October. and I was incredulous to even participate because I was of this one that just happened, and I was pleasantly surprised. I don't know how well it was done, how well it was advertised, but the weather was good. It's light later, so you get people that will come. And in the future, just I think there needs, if we ever have a primary, we need to sponsor it. Just automatically put that in so that an outside entity doesn't step up like that. Because doing it just for the general and not a primary is...
I agree, and see, it does require that they give us some notice on it. That was part of the problem with that last one is he calls us like a week before this thing's ready to go. And it was like, you know, this puts us in a tough spot because we haven't had a chance to look at this. I mean, the only one that really knew about it was Rich and myself. And so, and there was no promotion of, I mean, it would be an easy no next time under this policy right here. You come to us a week before the event, sorry, we're not getting involved in that. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it right.
And I asked how he promoted it, and he said through the GOP website, through the GOP, you know, and I'm just going, the cringe factor is there.
No, I agree. And that was one of the things, that's when I first started thinking about this and thinking, well, we got to get something in place because we just are so all over the place, and it's just tough to tell some no and some not no, and this is an easy criteria for us.
And I agree with Councilor Stevens. We do need to have that in your notes, Ms. Maragoni. Like if there's a primary, because I was involved in a big primary in 2011, and I remember it was before the primary because there was like 8 candidates up there on the panel. So it must have been early that they did it. I don't think they did 2. I think they just did 1. But anyway, put that in your notes. If there's a primary, we got to do it before the primary at least. I don't know if we have to do 2, but we could discuss that. Anyway, good points. And another thing is, people always want to put signs, and like, say the Roy Farmers Market, you know, they put signs around on city property or wherever, and we say you can't do that, but then we've got other signs in city property, and it's like, well, this helps us with that too. So anyway, okay. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we need a motion.
Move to approve Resolution 2025-29, resolution adopting a policy regarding city-sponsored and city-associated events and activities.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Ms. Maragoni, please poll the council.
Counselor Haas?
Yes.
Counselor Arnold?
Yes.
Counselor Stevens?
Yes.
Counselor Richter?
Yes.
All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Action item number 3, discussion and possible action regarding the senior center and or lunches. Mr. Brooks.
We had a couple council members request that we put this back on the agenda. We'd begun talking about this even as early, probably about the same time last year, and it kind of carried on through the year. This is when we were negotiating with Weaver Human Services about potentially getting some money to help us in particular with the senior lunches. Now that that's gone by the wayside, we're looking at some other approaches, but it doesn't involve, the county at this point. And so it's probably good that we bring that back for further discussion. Again, I mentioned earlier that I have Cody and Rich here, not knowing exactly what you want or what questions you have. The one example that really kind of struck me on this was at that recent anniversary thing that was about a month ago. And when Larry Hansen got up there and spoke, and he asked how many people were non-residents, and probably at least 60%, probably might have even been higher than that, raised their hands. And so it's concerning to the degree that if the county's not going to give us any money, then we've got to decide if Riverdale wants to keep paying for lunches for people who don't live in our city, because it's your residents, our residents are shouldering that. And when you get that big a crowd and they're not residents, then maybe we need to look at a tiered system where we charge more for lunches and stuff. And I don't know if that's exactly what you wanted to talk about, Councilor Riker, but and Mr. Haas too. So, like I said, we don't have a proposal for you tonight because we didn't know exactly where you wanted to go, and so we're kind of asking for some direction and some guidance on what you want us to do. We don't have a problem putting things together, and we got some ideas on numbers and different things like that, but I guess that's where I would kind of open it up to questions to you all on what you have in specifics, or if there's some stuff we could answer tonight, we'd be more than happy to. So,
Councilor Richter.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and thanks for putting it back on the agenda today. Two things. I think a discussion regarding the costs and what we can do to help mitigate, those expenses that are coming from outside. I think, speaking for myself, it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we're representing the citizens here in Riverdale, and if they're subsidizing a lot of other people that are coming in and we're not getting the support that we would expect from the county, that we need to have those discussions. So I think that's part of it. The second part, I think last time we spoke on this, there was some discussion about whether or not individual citizens were going to do some grandma requests and some different, trying to look into the process that we felt was somewhat, speak for myself again here, felt was somewhat flawed, because I think the criteria that the county presented was clear in what they were looking for as they evaluated those these funding sources, and the response that was provided by city staff and others, I think, arguably was also clear that we had a superior bid that came back, yet that was somehow not successful. So I would look. I'm not proposing any action at this point, but I think it would be appropriate that we do some information gathering as well to find out that whether we look back and go over the process that happened a number of months ago, or preparing moving forward, that we have a clear and transparent process that is somewhat accountable, and that we can support our citizens moving forward. So I think that's the two pieces that I would like to look at. One is, I think it's appropriate that we look at the costs. I think that's given the budget constraints that we have. Again, not a proposal at this point, but I think we need to go into it eyes open. And secondarily, I feel that we want some transparency from the county on what happened. And I know there were a lot of individuals that had communication, written communication, and even some assurances that were made in writing that did not come to pass. And I think that process was suspect, to say the least. So that's my thoughts on it.
Well, we'd be more than happy to report back on any of that. I mean, and I say this because I know that we are watched, especially when something appears on one of our agendas. They pay close attention to this. That was not a decision based on merits by any means. That was a political decision, and we just happened to get caught in it for whatever reason. And that's water under the bridge at this point. But I think in all my years of being in any kind of a leadership position, it was one of the most poorly handled things I think I'd ever witnessed, to be honest with you, and just a blatant abuse of the process. But there were some individual residents that were going to do some grandma requests and things like that, and I don't know where that's gotten. Nobody's brought anything into me, but we can follow through on that and see what we can come up with as far as that goes. But we can certainly break down costs and bring those kind of things back to you, and we'll continue to look at the transparency issue. And as I mentioned, we're taking some different approaches and just even bypassing that. And we don't know where that's going to go yet, but that might even be our best option and best bet anyway. But in the meantime, we probably should look at this a little bit closer and evaluate, how much of a burden. We already know it's a burden on Riverdale. There's no question about it. It's just how much is that, and how much are we worried about it. There's going to come a time, we had our first meeting on the 2030 committee, where things like this is going to be even more important when we start cutting budgets back. So it's important, and we probably should be looking at that. So it's one of the things that we had listed in our criteria, is that we will look internally and see where we can cut corners and save money and things like that. And this would be a good place to start off on that. So if I understand it, so primarily we're focusing on the senior lunches at this point. Is that what you're most interested in?
I think that was the initial concern, just because
Okay.
it was so,
Okay.
public. Yeah, I think we have a responsibility to the citizens here to make sure that they're being treated equitably and fairly.
Okay. So maybe what we ought to do is look at both the lunches and the programs, because I think the programs, and Rich could give you more information on this, But there's also participation in the programs, and I don't know how much that costs us in addition on residents. You want to address that maybe a little bit, Rich, and just talk about in your programs, is there a big difference in a bigger cost to Riverdale on residents versus non-residents or something like that?
Yeah, with the city budget from the general fund, the largest expenditure would be our senior lunch as it relates to the senior center. There's also some administrative costs or operation costs, I guess is what we'll say. When it relates to the programs offered, which there's a lot of programs beside just the lunch program, some of those programs have fees associated with them that the participants pay. But the senior board, who Councillor Hawes is a member of, really fronts the cost for most of those programs. So they do their own fundraising efforts, and they support those programs by buying supplies and things like that. So the fees that are collected from those programs are actually going to the senior board. It's not going through the city right now. So the costs are set by the senior board and things like that. If you want more specifics, I could bring in more specific information, but as a generality, that's how those programs operate.
Okay.
And go ahead.
So we'll focus on the lunches for now. I mean, we'll take a look at this and see if there's some information that we probably should bring back to you. But we'll focus on the lunches for now and then bring that back to you once we've had a chance to look at that a little tighter, if that's okay.
When you say focus, what do you mean focus on what? The
Cost
like,
and how that breaks down.
Okay, what we charge versus what it actually, what the expense of it?
Right. And that, and then factoring in, resident versus non-resident. I mean, how many lunches are we buying for non-residents on Riverdale's back, basically, is what it is. So, and should we be charging something a little bit more maybe for a non-resident versus a resident kind of thing?
Councillor Haas?
So I guess one of my big questions is the county does their budget in the fall. They're aren't they on a calendar year, fiscal year?
It is, yeah.
So they would be looking at this again at this time. Have we had any communication with them?
Been dead silent. And what the county does is they hand that off to Weber Human Services, and they're the ones who put this together, and they're the ones that make the recommendations. So the most recent recommendations from Weber Human Services did not include us for anything. So unless the county commission stepped in and said, no, we're not going to do it that way, we will not get anything from them.
Okay.
Well, I think that's an important piece. I mean, I really do. I don't want to just throw up the flag and say, well, they didn't help us, and I guess they're not going to help us, and we'll just forge it. That process was significantly flawed, and I think it was demonstrated that way, and I think we need to make sure that we're doing what we can, or what we should be doing, to protect the citizens of Riverdale from those processes moving forward. I really do.
Okay. And we can follow through on that.
We're currently having some conversations on some alternative funding. We're not really, it's conversations at this point, that might be a chunk of funding similar to what the county would have, or what we were requesting from the county, or what we had talked about with the county from alternative source that could be helpful, right? And then there's also some grants that we're looking at too. But all of this stuff is just what we're looking at. I mean, what you guys as a council are talking about as well. I think all components matter. Not just one thing, but we're trying to approach it from all different directions. So,
and to their points, I think Weber Human Services may consider this settled, and the county might consider it settled. But if we were to make adjustments to the price of the lunches, the residents might not consider it, or not the residents, the patrons of the senior center, especially those that are paying the new rate, may not consider it settled. and might be, more inclined to express their displeasure to Weber Human Services or the county. Not that that's the reason we would do it, but I mean, they might feel like it's settled, but we don't feel like it's settled. I think the process was deeply flawed as well. So I don't know if it's just a matter of waiting till people turn over at Weber Human Services, or how we approach it again and say, okay, that you might think it's done, but we don't think it's done. So yeah, it needs to be kept in front of the council and the city. Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah,
Counselor
I
Arnold.
think one of the things that we could look at on a monthly basis is just the actual cost that went out for the lunches, and then how many lunches were given. So, and if we did 1,000 lunches and we did $8,000, that they're $8 per or something like, we could get a running tally on how the trend works.
We have that information. I didn't prepare it for you tonight, but we can put that stuff together.
I think it could very easily just be in the packet once a month or something like that when we do the full departments and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things with the process, from the conversations I had with Weber Human Services, we've got to repair those relationships. This was not about dollars and cents and how wonderful Riverdale senior programs are and all that kind of stuff compared to what's going on. The conversations, and I shared this with Braden, and I think you had conversations as well after that. This was based on, from what I was told, this was based on presentation. They were not happy with how it was presented, how Riverdale presented it. Like, they felt that we were very cocky and proud of our services and saying, hey, we're the best in the area and we should be rewarded for that by having this funding. And it just soured them. So it was completely based on the receipt of the presentation. Not saying that it was a bad presentation, or not even the presentation itself, but the personnel. They were.
I would invite you to, and they very well may feel that way. I would invite you to look at communication between staff of the city and Weber Human Services as well, because the conversations you've been having might be representing their point of view, but there's
for 100%.
There's a lot in writing that might surprise you.
So the important part of that is their perspective is the only one that matters, because they're decision makers. So, however that was perceived, I'm actually good friends with the top two people there, and I talked to them both, and I said, "What is going on?" And Kevin was like, he really didn't have a ton to do with it, But Michelle she's like, and Michelle's. She's very nice. She's very approachable, but she was like, man, it was like a full court press type thing. And that's the way I feel about the CTC. I'm like, dude, we're supporting you. We're supporting you, and yet you're hitting us with both barrels. And it's just like, back it down a little bit. So that's kind of what she was saying.
I don't
Sorry,
disagree
Michelle,
with
if you're
that,
watching this, 'cause she
Alan. We were there, and all we did was tell the truth. We didn't say anything that wasn't true. The thing that really upset them is that we took that geofence map in and showed how many people really were coming into our facility.
And they mentioned that they were looking at the attorneys with that going.
But there was no reason to. There's nothing illegal about that. And all it did was tell the truth, and they didn't want to tell the truth, and that's what upset them about it.
And just the normal person, I think, and when you guys are talking, hey, this is what's going on with Old Glory Days, and then we were seeing where they were going after. These people went to Walmart, and I myself was like, whoa, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that cool? If it's legal, it's great, but
it was. There was nothing. We did nothing wrong, nothing illegal. But
when you're running for an election and you have Big Brother with you,
right.
And this person's a Republican, Democrat,
right.
whatever, and you're knocking on the door, and they're like, "How'd you know that?" I never vote. You voted for the last 20 years.
Right.
You know,
But again, it comes back to what we've said all along is, was that a political decision? Was the decision because they didn't like the way Riverdale handled that the right decision, or was it just their opinion? And that's what it came down to. So are we here to provide services and protect seniors, or are we here to get pissed because somebody made a presentation that you didn't like? You see what I'm saying? And so if their job is, as Weber Human Services, is to provide services to as many residents as you can, then it was a no-brainer who should have gotten funding on that. There was no way that there was around that.
Geofencing, I turned people off, but if you think about it, everybody should be using it.
Absolutely.
I mean,
It tells the
you're
truth.
foolish not to use it.
We presented facts, and they didn't like the fact that we had facts.
And the point that you make, Counselor Arnold, I think is a valid point. The relationship and the communication doesn't benefit both organizations, because some of the information that you're sharing even tonight has never been shared with us. And maybe that's the point that you're making, is that relationship's not to the point that they're sharing that. But it's really difficult to navigate the waters with the current relationship. And so the point that you bring up is valid.
We need to get some people coming down for lunch. You know, I mean, Weber Human Services should be coming down for lunch. They need to go to the Roy.
They've
and they
been
need to
there.
Go to Washington Terrace on a regular basis, though, and just.
We would never stop them. That's their call. That was one of the points we made. In fact, it was Michelle that was there, and she was looking at our menu because she was critiquing that, and we're saying, well, what's the difference between our menus and your menus, kind of thing. And she didn't really have an answer to that. That was in our facility that
Not
day.
enough sauerkraut.
Must not have been, but either way, I mean, it's you know, they were the ones that had invited us down for that presentation. It was at their invitation they asked us to come down and make the presentation. That's what we did.
Yeah.
We just told the truth.
And it actually started, way before that. Months and months I was in a meeting, and I think Weber Human Services was on the defensive from the very get-go, because I sat in a meeting with all the other cities, and when it kind of came out that everybody in the county was getting money for their senior program, whether it was a once a week little program out in Hooper where they just met in a room and just did something, everybody was getting money from the county. And I was kind of like, how can that be fair? That's terrible. I said, we're running the whole thing on our backs, and it kind of, I think they were on the defensive from the very first day, and this was way before you guys ever went to that presentation. And they admitted to us one time in a meeting, I sat right across from them, and we said, does it come down to the fact that you basically figure we'll just keep doing it even if you don't give us the money? And they said, yeah, we figure you'll just keep doing it. And I mean, there's a million different problems with it. And it's unfortunate that it's ended up here, but we've got to keep fighting or keep trying, not fighting, but trying, because our facility is amazing and they do amazing things. And we got to put our pride behind us. We do, and they do too. Like Mr. Brooks said, the right thing for the seniors is to fund the Riverdale Center. That's the right thing. And so we'll just keep pursuing it. But I know there's a lot of different opinions.
Well, I just have one more thing, Rich. You don't have to stand there and listen to this part, but just in the last week, you know, I was at Home Depot and they were talking about, the employees were talking about who was going to go to Clinton when they build the Home Depot in Clinton. Half of the employees that work in Riverdale want to go to Clinton, and how much hiring they're going to do. And then they were talking about the Walmart I guess it's been approved for West Haven. So you get that. And then somebody today told me about Target going into Far West. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, we have a lot of people coming to us for that kind of thing. And I think 2030 is, you know, it's a lot more than just losing the sales tax revenue that's, you know, the hold harmless. We've got to do things smarter, because we don't have people coming from West Haven to our Walmart anymore, which we do today, and those types of things. I mean, this is, I think it looks like it's getting serious beyond the whole hold harmless. So, you know, I hope on the 2030 committee, you know, just it's going to be painful if that kind of stuff happens. So, and this is just one minor component of it.
No, I agree. We'll keep working on it.
Okay. Any other comments on that item? Okay, seeing none. We'll move on to comments from the city council for this meeting. Anything? Comments from the city staff?
I had a list of them, but we've hit all of them. Mayor hit most of them. The one thing I would say that we didn't talk about is it's a state law now that we convert over to that .gov. We've been doing that all week. You have new emails. I don't know if I think you're probably aware of that, but we've got to shut our system down probably this weekend. So our website will not be online because of that. We tried doing it during the week, and it just doesn't give us enough time to fully convert it over during the night. So we'll probably be down. The website will be at least probably Saturday and Sunday both, didn't you think, Cody? But then we'll be back up on Monday. So we tried to implement it, didn't work, and you had to go back to the old system, but we've got to get it back over to that other one. That's a state mandate, so we don't have a choice. So if anybody calls you or asks questions or anything and our website is down, that's why.
We're not losing historical any. I mean, the server's still.
No, we won't lose anything. It's just the conversion process of the whole thing.
Can we have Angel make an announcement on the Riverdale City, and then somebody can drag it over to the citizen one, just in case people are trying to access it. It'll just save us some headaches.
And while we're at it, on that topic, on the newsletter. You know, we have our personal phone numbers, and I get calls from time to time. I notice a couple of you have landlines, not your primary. Can we switch that to, and what's on for communication purposes? Take off our personal phone numbers and personal emails and put on the .gov.
There's nothing legally that says you have to have those on there anyway. We could put whatever you want, and I think we've just done it by tradition. So
going to whoever's running the website
right.
to change that. Okay, I'll do that.
And they'll probably all need to have do people have their personal emails on there maybe? Because we all have a Riverdale City.
And we should convert to the .gov ones for that kind of stuff.
Personal email on there, but it's phone number.
Just on elections, whatever you put on your disclosure, that's what's going on there. On your when you file.
Okay, I mean.
Not on the website, but on the elections page.
Yeah, on the sign up. Okay, because I've been inundated far more with vendors that it's just unbelievable. But anyway, but my personal email. I'm sorry, my personal phone number. I'd like removed from the newsletter.
And I think once the election's over, they're free to do whatever they want, right? Like, I mean, whatever's on the newsletter and the website. You might have to keep that on your election information. Okay.
And as a word to the wise, you get calls from vendors and stuff, you send them my way. You shouldn't have to be dealing with all that kind of stuff. Same thing, though. I wouldn't even respond to them.
Probably 30 a day.
And I do, too. And I spend my whole day going through that stuff. But just forward those to me if you think it might be valuable or important or something we need to see. So, and that's fine, too. But I don't want you guys addressing that kind of stuff because most of them are just salespeople. Yeah. You wouldn't know some of the specifics of what we would even be interested in. So just forward it to me if you think it's valuable or important. Otherwise, I wouldn't even address it.
So just the timing on the emails. I tried to access the new one, but couldn't get in. I suspect the timing. Are they not active yet, or they are?
And on mine.
You got in on yours?
I got in, yeah.
So no password change. They just converted over.
Yeah. So it should just be like.
So it's operator error, right?
RiverdaleUtah.gov.
Okay, I'll try again. Okay, that's all I need.
Riverdale, Utah. Yeah.
And we had mentioned you might want to check your trash folder a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been the same anyway. You could have some that get sent there, but double check that at least initially. If you find some that probably shouldn't be there consistently, let us know, and we can see if there's some reason for that. So.
Okay, thanks.
I just had mine forwarded to you. Everything that comes
Everything.
Just put everything this way.
Anything else, Mr. Brooks?
No, that's all I had, Mayor.
I do have
okay.
something. Roundabout on Ritter and 1050. What's the timing on that? Have we?
We're going to have our 90% meeting about 2 weeks. So we'll have 90% of the design work done, still scheduled to build this bid this fall, late this fall, and construct in the spring.
So we're not gonna be messing with both of them that they were talking about today with the bridges and the roundabout at the same time? Good, great.
Not if they keep their schedule that they promised us at the meeting last.
Yeah, I was wondering if the same engineering firm worked for America First and we were just screwed, man. And then, code enforcement, they, around that roundabout proposed area right there, I had a resident talk about the trees that are coming in that area. I'm sure they've probably talked to you before about that, but they were saying that they had an accident because of those trees. You can't see somebody coming from South Weaver, so I didn't know if, I don't even know who owns that house. Is that Brent Coleman across the street from his house? There's a rental.
I'm not sure.
So the
We'll-
trees,
we'll get over there and look at it.
The trees are
I
just kind of hanging out in the road there. that
Okay.
they're worried about.
We'll get over.
Yeah.
Brings up
Come on back.
unrelated. Excuse me. Had to go on base today. First time I'm technically still employed. I'm just, anyway, had to go, saw a bunch of homies, excuse me, of former employees who see my signs. A couple of them, several of them approached me. I guess it's more for Casey. If you go up top of Ritter and like you would turn, there's cones and there's some temporary things going on up there that it makes it very hard to turn left or whatever. And some people are, it was hard for me to follow, making some very dangerous maneuvers to get through, to get over, to make the turn. And you might just post a patrol car up there in the morning during the commute.
They've been up there.
Have they?
Yeah, I think they're coming off of the freeway
Oh, man.
and they're darting.
Yes,
way.
that
No
was what
way.
it is described.
Oh, my God.
Turning
On
under
Ritter?
Ritter.
across
Oh.
Marlowe's to get to the business.
I've seen a couple
Yes.
people do that. I'm like, that's a great
So
idea.
they've been up there and they've actually scored some tickets, made quite a few
And,
stops.
and I guess as if you sit there waiting patiently to make your left-hand turn, you'll see that quite, I guess, quite frequently. That's,
They've been up there. We'll continue to be on it.
And it's not finished. They're going to put a wall through there, I'd imagine.
Eventually. we won't
it's
be able to
all
get out
temporary.
there.
It's the way they have it, the cones on.
Yeah, I've been up there, yeah.
We were just talking about that today, actually. I was coming that way. Some of the guys were talking about they've been up there, so.
I actually like it.
They're still scheduling that wall for this fall, so the permanent wall, because they still have to do the sidewalk and that, they need the space on the east side of the road. That's why the permanent wall isn't in. As soon as they can get the improvements completed on the west, or the east side of the road, then they're gonna come back, hopefully not too far into fall, and pour that permanent wall, so that will take care of that problem that you're talking about.
They need a longer turn lane going to Roy. When you come off that, it clogs it when if you have more than three turning to go to Roy, then it clogs that whole thing. You can't go to Riverdale.
I think that widens to the west a little bit. I'd have to go back and look, but
In the
I think
future?
they still have some work
Hopefully.
to do on that, but I don't know if it'll get a whole nother lane or not.
They still have,
Exactly.
yeah, they still have construction equipment there working on that. And that's what I figured, is that eventually there will be a longer.
More room.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how, they probably won't go back far enough, but it will be far more than 3 cars,
Right.
I would imagine.
Okay. Anything else? I just had something real quick. The jokes about America First. UDOT did assure us that there's severe financial penalties if they go over this 6 weeks or go over the Black Friday. We'll see. Hopefully they're severe enough because we want that done. And
I was going to ask them if they were confident that they
Yeah.
had identified all of the utilities.
And then one other thing, just so you know kind of what goes on behind the scenes sometimes, they did mention that we're getting some extra paving. UDOT did know that we were going to freak out when they said we're going to try and close this, and which we did. We let them know we were unhappy, which was played very well by Sean and Mr. Brooks, because they knew what their plan was, and they were able to talk UDOT into paving clear past all the way through the Parker roundabout, and even about 10 or 12 feet down 4,400, right to where our new pavement starts. I mean, they're going to take care of all our problem pavement and go all the way. It's going to be beautiful. And then there's another, I alluded to another thing we're working on. I don't know if we can mention that it's, I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to
Early in the
act like
game.
we've got it locked up. But there's another project that UDOT is doing that we're not thrilled with, and we're trying to negotiate with them, and we feel like we made some progress with them about cutting something back through allowing them to close that. Which I really think the closure's better anyway, to be honest. Like, let's get it done. I mean, Black Friday, it's going to be here before we know
The
it.
way America First has been rolling, I mean, that throughway in there is a mess anyway.
Right.
Do it now
Yeah.
while they're,
Yeah.
when they open everything, it's just gonna be this beautiful, wonderful utopia.
Everybody be the heroes. So anyway, that was very well played by our city administration, and they actually got some concessions from UDOT that UDOT could have just told us they're doing whatever they want. And anyway, we got some good stuff. Plus, we saved $500,000. Well, the project saved $500,000, and which we'll get to see some of that. So anyway, it was very nicely done. And with that, I don't have anything else, so we would need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All right. We're adjourned. Okay, next meeting. Okay, this is the Riverdale City
All right.
RDA meeting for Tuesday, August 5th, 2025. Let the record show all board members are present, with the exception of board member Hanson. We also have members of the city staff with us. There's no public here, so we will skip the public comment. No presentation reports. Consent items. Number one, consideration to approve the meeting minutes from the July 15, 2025 RDA board meeting and work session. Is there any corrections or changes to those minutes? Seeing none, we need a motion to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second?
Motion and a second. All in favor, say yes.
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 Any opposed? Okay, those pass unanimously. We'll now move on to action items. Number one, discussion of possible action regarding Riverdale Senior Center and senior lunches. Mr. Brooks, do we need to have further discussion?
I don't think we'll need to go any further. I think we covered most of it in the last one.
Okay.
Is there anything specific about the RDA piece that we would need to discuss here as opposed to the other?
If we were going to discuss like the building or anything like that, then that would be RDA. And that's why initially I'd set that thinking that might be part of it. But where most of the things, unless you wanted to bring that up, most of the things that we discussed in that first meeting was city particular. So we're probably okay.
Okay, if I could.
Go ahead.
All right, I purposely did bring it up in the last one, but not frequently, from time to time, there will be one or two individuals who are very vocal, and Mr. Hanson mentioned, Larry Hanson mentioned it at the anniversary about having an endowment, the money that's set aside, that's under RDA control. Okay. And we've talked about those funds in the past as primarily being used for maintenance and different things. Is any of that being used for the lunches, or to subsidize the lunches, or is that strictly segregated for the budget as opposed to taking from the endowment?
Jump in, Cody, if I'm wrong here, but that money has not been used for the lunches at all. That's coming out of city coffers, the lunches
Exclusively.
and the cost, yes.
Okay, so that's why in the previous meeting, we talked, the focus is on the lunches.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Right. And it's not really an endowment. Like an endowment that counselor or board member Richter would think of, it's not the same. All it is like a reserve of money that is set aside, but it's in a totally different fund. and
It's
that's
under the RDA control.
It's under the RDA control, and so it's really there. And if you remember, we have budgeted to use a very large portion of that this year for the roof replacement and the furnaces and those things. But yeah, it has nothing to do with the other, and that's part of what makes it difficult sometimes, because we've got like two things that are one, but they're in two totally different places, and some pays for one, some pays for another. But no, we have not used any of that for lunches.
And we don't plan to?
We really can't, because it's not in the same fund. Like, we pay for all of the stuff associated with the senior center, the stuff that Rich handles, out of the general fund, and everything else is out of that Fund 30, the housing fund.
Okay.
So,
all right. I have somebody who's actually quite well read on this, but is not up to date. And so, anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and that's an important point, though, because when that money does run out, then what do? Because we don't have additional monies coming in. That was the original money that was still left over from when we did the RDA. So when that money goes out, unless we just upped our rents through the roof, we're going to find money somewhere else. That's to take care of the building. So all these things are coming together. And after this year, a lot of that's going to be gone, a good chunk of that reserve fund.
And so just to be clear, the rentals are all managed through the RDA, and all the money comes in from the rentals and goes in the RDA funds, and that's all in the same account.
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, I mean, I got from the the dust up that we had a year or 2 years ago, was the seniors and the lunch is different than the residents, and those are, for all intents and purposes, they're different entities.
Yeah. Yes, they are.
Okay, any other comments on the senior center account? Board Member Arnold.
Is with the apartments, are they at a positive cash flow?
I don't know that we're a positive cash flow. We're doing a whole lot better. Cody, you want to address it, or?
Thanks for coming up, by the way.
Yeah, you could just sit in the front row.
That's against my nature. Some of that, it depends. What's the cash flow? Like, are we talking without capital? Are we talking, you know what I mean? Like, and that's something, like, if you want more information, like, we can bring that into you and show you.
So honestly, what I would like to see is if that was its own entity, you know, the water fund.
And it already is,
right?
Exactly like that.
So is it running with the rents? Are we paying for when we replace the cabinets and the air conditioners and all that kind of stuff, that if it's its own entity, is the cash flow that's coming in to supporting that entity? Or is, we're talking about the lunches, and I was just thinking with the numbers that I brought up, that if we do 1,000 lunches at $8 a piece, that's pennies compared to the apartments and doing X amount for air conditioners and upgrading that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So
because if we were landlords, we wouldn't be doing this stuff if we weren't the cities. And at what point do we go, you know what, let's run a senior center and let's lease these out to somebody? Because apartments, my daughter's paying $1,500 a month for a basement apartment, and she got a steal. And it's like, you see, even just around here with, the rentals that are going, they're pushing $2,000, which is nuts. I mean, it shocks me. So where are we at?
We're doing better, and a lot of it comes back to the capital that we pay for each year and how many move outs we have, because it depends how much. A lot of those, I think we've rehabbed 10 now, like half of them. Is that right? 12. So it depends. Like, we had a whole bunch of those in one year that we had to replace carpet and linoleum and do a lot of painting and all that stuff. And so, like, that year, I don't think we were cash positive. If we don't do a lot of capital projects, then we are cash positive, and we're slowly adding to that. But the rents, if you remember, we approved like a 10% max. So it's getting better. I still don't, we're not competing with $2,000 a month rents either, but it is getting better. And this year we're going to lose money because if we do all those projects.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think given the origination of original money and the ongoing requirements of the RDA housing fund, which it's paid from, this has to be below market type of rents. We couldn't use that RDA money to create a market rate situation. That's
So-
my understanding of the funds.
We talked many times about how this is not subsidized housing, and that's what you're saying it is. I mean, if it's not at market rate, then it's subsidized.
It's HUD rates, right? I think we clock to HUD rates.
Yeah, we've been looking at HUD rates, and so we're not getting money from somebody else.
We're using HUD rates. We don't have to use.
We don't have to. And I think, and we'd have to talk to Adam about that specifically, because we used property tax money from the 1050 West RDA area where like Sportsman's and Target and that is to fund this development. And so, but we used it just to build the building. And the question is now too somewhat, like I've talked to Adam about this, so the money that we have left over, the quote unquote endowment, is that money that's left over from the property taxes? Because the property taxes were really used to pay for the bond, or is that just rents that we've been saving? And you know, like in one way it's, you know, is it an apple or is it an orange? Does it matter? You know, ultimately it doesn't matter a lot unless we decide that like we're going to shut it down or something like that. And then the origination of some of those funds might come into play.
Because if it's subsidized housing, we should be able to qualify for something from the state or something to subsidize it.
And
rather than having, because I really do, I mean, we have 20, so we have 20 residents that are being subsidized by the city, you know, the residents of the city. And, you know, if you're gonna, you know, I pay for people at McDonald's behind me. I'm like, hey, I want to buy their lunch or whatever, but I'm not going to pay their rent.
Right.
You know, and I think that's something that we should look at and look at hard to say, you know what, let's run a seniors program, but not the housing. We lease it to somebody else and let some housing authority take care of it, or some, what's a renter's warehouse, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a flat fee. I heard it today.
And I don't know that the citizens are subsidizing it because it's in a separate fund. So we've isolated it. We're not like actively transferring money from the general fund to it. So it's standing on its own now. A few years ago when we came to you, we were like really worried because, you know, like rents were way low and, you know, we knew we had all these expenditures, but it's holding its own right now. But I think what Brandon's saying is we're not subsidized rent, but more maybe like below market.
By definition, so it's an affordable. There's affordability language in the statute that talks about the use of housing funds,
Which helps us with the state.
which is required by law.
Right.
So what Cody said is really the question is, as it flows through all of these different buckets, it was used for a capital project and now it's getting returned to us through rent. Does that restriction remain, or now is it unrestricted money because it's produced out of a rental fee instead of being used for capital? So those are kind of things we have to figure out, but the statute is pretty clear about the affordability nature of the use of RDA housing funds. And so the question remains, can we actually create a market rate situation? I think from this discussion, we aren't entirely sure.
Is it housing funds? Is it RDA housing funds that are used for it?
I believe it was just regular RDA funds that were transferred over there. So we'd have to go back and talk to Adam about it specifically. And once again, it kind of, every time I've talked to Adam about it, it's like, well, what are you going to use it for? And so like the end kind of determines the beginning. So,
I mean, I would think the rents would almost be like the property tax. You know, let's figure out what C is, and then we mess with A and B to get C. So we're not, I don't care if we're making money as much as I don't want to be subsidizing resident. Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on up, Mr. Taylor.
So a few years ago, as it related to rent, we were asking that question, what's it going to take that we can kind of not make money but not lose money? And obviously that takes a ton of projection and capital projects and costs and whatever else. But we commissioned that study with Lewis Young, Rob, right? And so they gave us some ideas on on where they think things are going to be and how much we should charge for rent and stuff like that. What we elected to do, rather than immediately change our rents to the rates that they're suggesting, is we were doing maximum of 10% per year because we have people on fixed incomes that are currently living there. But as we're, from that point, moving forward, changing these rents, the idea behind it is we get the rent to the point where it's able to cover those types of things, hopefully before we run out of that money. But then are people willing to pay that rent? You know, so there's all sorts of questions, but we are moving in that direction, and that's what we're trying to do, is get to that point, because we realized that as the RDA had increment coming in, it was less of an urgent problem. But it's like you're going to work through that money, and for all those years they had that money sitting there. That was the plan. Well, the next time we need a new roof, what's the plan? And so what we're trying to do is have that money stashed aside through the current rents. We're not quite there yet, especially with the capital projects that we're coming through right now. But if you take the capital projects out, it's a whole different story, and you can't take them out because they're always going to be a thing. But to your point, that's what we're working on, and that's why we're doing the 10% per year rather than a huge jump at once. And that was something that we had talked to you guys about. But there's certainly lots of different ways to do it, and there's, you know, that's just the method that we've been using.
Well, I know we do 10% a year on the 2-bedroom and the 1-bedroom, but I think if someone moves out, we can bump that. We should be able to bump that more than and just saying, this is what we do for a 2-bedroom, this is what we do for a 1-bedroom. You know, if somebody moves out, we do a 2-bedroom, it's $1,500 a month. It just boom, you know, rather than what we're doing as a standard rate. There's opportunity lost, something there.
Yeah. And so far, like Rich and I were just talking about, like we're making a lot of improvement, like it's doing well, but some of it comes back to what problems do we have and how fast do we replace stuff. Like I think we're only budgeting to replace 2 of the big roof units a year, and so, you know, like if we have a bunch go bad one year, and then our reserves are going to drop a lot quicker. But for the time being, like we're going to see a dump this year because we're doing so much, but we're slowly inching up. Like I looked at the fund balance earlier today, and I think last year we were about like 1.8 million sitting aside, and we're about 1.9 before I've done like all my year-end accounting and stuff. And so we are like slowly inching up, but it does depend on the capital projects each year and move-ins and move-outs and vacancies and all that jazz, right?
And we expect, if you replace a couple of rooftop units or if you get a new roof, we wouldn't expect to replace those same units or get a new roof again in the next 2 years, right? And so like some of it's hitting big right now, but hopefully that stuff will last for a little bit. And the idea is that we can have a plan to keep socking a little bit of money aside for that. I mean, we're trying to do some of these things, but from where we started, it just wasn't like that. It wasn't set up that way. So we're working on it.
I mean, it's like the lunches is a bruise. You know, this is like an artery.
Yeah.
You know, we're cutting arteries, so.
If I could say one other thing, not in regards to money, because we're seeing things that we've never seen before, but the legal issues that we're running into on those apartments now is getting scary. Because, you know, when we first started this, a lot of those residents were younger, and they've either passed on or moved on, or the residents we're getting now are a lot older. And so you start factoring in things like the ADA and service animals and these kind of things that we've never seen until the last 2 years. And that's all Rich and I have dealt with lately. And so it's one of those things that should a city even be doing this is kind of the bottom line. Should we be landlords is where I'm at. I mean, luckily I worked for a housing agency before I even came here. I wouldn't even have known some of this stuff, because it's not something that most attorneys get involved in, let alone city attorneys. I mean, this is rare and unique, but I'm just afraid that at some point in time, if we end up getting nailed on one of these lawsuits, man, I don't know what that's going to cost us. So far we've been lucky and we've been able to get around it, but these are things we've never dealt with in Riverdale.
And that is like as challenging as it is having it in 2 different places. It's good too, right? Because we're able to kind of look at it as separate pieces, like our senior services from the city's aspect, and then the housing portion. And there is some overlap that makes it a little challenging, but we can kind of look at them independently.
Okay.
Anything else before I go sit down in the back?
Good discussion.
We'll sit in the back.
And we thought we weren't even going to discuss it, but
Here we go.
we got it in anyway,
There's
Mike.
always
so-
more. It's obviously going to be a thing for a long time. All right, we will move on to item number 2, consideration of resolution 2025-06, approving a real estate purchase contract for the purchase of property located at 4600 South 600 West Riverdale, Utah. Mr. Cooper or Mr. Brooks, who's doing this?
Somebody go ahead.
Cooper will do it.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
That means we get a slideshow. So
Yep.
that's good.
We had to get a slideshow. Okay, so yes, this is the property just on the other side of us, on the other side of the track there. Mr. Mike Ford is the owner of the property through his LLC, Clearfield Business Park LLC. He came to us a number of months ago looking at a development proposal. Here it is. This is something that he's looked at over a number of years and has been trying to figure out how to develop some commercial units on this property. It is currently zoned for commercial, so this is a by right development, as it's called. If he could satisfy the standards and guidelines of the city, the zoning allows for it. Through this discussion, he brought up the notion of the city, or in this case, the redevelopment agency, purchasing the property. And so we did some negotiation, and we ordered an appraisal, and did some additional negotiation after that. And so today we're bringing forward the final negotiated real estate purchase contract. And so what that looks like is the 11.36 acres for sale, which is everything you see in the yellow. Most of that land is in between the rail and the access road. That's flat. And then to the west, or excuse me, to the east, it goes up the hillside there on that skinny part. The appraised value, based on the commercial appraisal we received, was $1,480,000. We've negotiated a purchase price of $750,000, so that would be the cash amount that we would bring to closing if this is approved tonight. And then in the contract, you'll notice that there is some language there that that recognizes that the remaining balance, the $730,000, would be recognized by the RDA as a charitable contribution by him, and that allows him to use that language in favor of a tax deduction or something that would favor him tax-wise. He's accepted that, and that's something that would help us as well. So again, the actual cash at closing would be the $750,000 by the agency if this is approved. We would look at the typical due diligence of getting a survey and a title, preliminary title done to ensure that the parcel is what it's being claimed to be. We wouldn't, as part of this transaction, unless directed by the board, we wouldn't be doing anything like a geotechnical report or anything like that. That's typically outside of a traditional due diligence. There is a seller disclosure requirement of him, so that if he has that information, if he's done a geotechnical or a wetland study or any type of information associated with the quality and nature of the land, he would be required to disclose that to us. But unless otherwise instructed, we don't typically do that. So we're buying it kind of as is, where is, based on what we learned from the disclosures and whatever other studies we would be doing. I have some slides here talking about potential uses of the property, and we can get into that if you'd like to discuss what those uses are. The intention is to make this part of Stringtown. We don't know what the entirety of Stringtown would look like. We're just launching into that process now with our stakeholder partners, with the other property owners. But in some of our pre-planning, we've identified that east side of the rail as potentially being open space and or park space. If you look at this map here, this is our future land use map that's currently part of the adopted general plan. All of that green part right there is the eastern side of the track, and Mr. Ford's property is up here. And so we've already kind of thought through this idea of future use of this property in the general plan process, which took place in 2023, and so that is why that's kind of designated as open space or future park space. So there's lots of discussion we could have about future land use, but at this point, there is nothing planned for it. It is at the top of that section that's only accessed off of 600 West by the water park there. So it's the very next property after the water park. And it really is the gateway for any other property below that to the south. There's some potential opportunity to purchase those. And I think if the decision tonight is made to purchase Mr. Ford's property, then it would automatically lead into the idea of purchasing others. I think this is the best one in that whole string of properties, but it does kind of open up the option to purchase more. And so I think that's a consideration that you should keep in mind, that if this proposal is approved tonight, then we would likely come back to look at the option of acquiring additional property below it to really put us in a position to create that open space and add value to the Stringtown planning process. So I'll leave it at that and answer any questions based on what we've talked about this far.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Yes, Mr. President. Mainly for Mr. Douglas. It's on. Okay. Okay, if I mention the pork chop, it's an RDA owned piece of property behind Walmart and Sam's. We've had that quite a number of years. And I don't know.
Is it RDA owned? It's city owned.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
Okay.
I guess, okay, my bad. How much are we anticipating spending on maintaining it annually? I mean, okay, a city-owned versus RDA, I mean, it still has to be dealt with if there's issues or if we need to mow weeds or whatever. What are we talking, man hours? How much as opposed to dollars? But I don't know. Are we required to maintain the road on that? Snowplow it or whatever.
I don't think so. It's just an easement. It's not a road. It's not classified as a road. There'd be no.
Okay, but the people to the south, do they have accesses to that? Use that trail, that road, or whatever? Okay, so
Yeah.
I don't know. What are costs to owning it and maintaining it in its present natural state?
Very minimal if you leave it like it is.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
Minimal if you leave it like it is.
Yeah, thanks. We should have.
So I'd say it's very minimal if you leave it like it is. Like if you start going in and do weed control and do all those type of things, then you're gonna have yearly costs on it.
Do we have any reason to maintain other than the minimum?
I think on this property in particular, as compared to the other one that you mentioned behind Walmart, I think
Well, the
that
pork
one
chop is, okay, that was, I just.
or others. Let's say other
It
city-owned
is.
property. I think because of the nature of this property where it is and the fact that it is what it is, I think the maintenance requirement on this would be much lower than maybe a city property along 4400 or somewhere in town. I think all property requires some maintenance, but I think given its current condition, this would be on the lower scale of that. Sean, would you agree?
I would. It depends on what code enforcement does to us.
You don't go over there.
It should be fairly minimal, but if you have things come up, then it could, I mean, if for some reason the springs start doing things or the ditch starts backing up or all those type of things that are involved over there, then they would all play into maintenance. Because there is a lot of water on that area. I mean, there's a steady flow of water in that ditch that goes through that property.
Are any water rights included?
No.
Not right now, no. I did learn today driving through there that there's some cattle on the property, and I wasn't aware of that previously. It's an agricultural zone. Well, it's a commercial zone on this parcel, agricultural around it. And so I don't know if the cows migrated to that land. I've never seen them there, but similar to what what we did at South Weber when we purchased that property, we made arrangements with the adjoining neighbor to maintain it, to help keep our costs low. So he farms it, he mows it, those kind of things. There might be something on this property that we could do with adjacent owners or somebody that, whoever owns these cows, that might be something that could help us. I'm just spitballing, but there's some options to potentially keep our costs low over the holding time.
Because I see this being unimproved for a while.
Potentially. Without a reuse plan at this point, it could be indefinite, similar to some of the other parcels that we've owned for a number of years.
Yeah, okay.
I think we should have gotten the county's assessor to do our appraisal, because they say the market value is $815,000, and that's what they're currently being taxed on. How would that be so far off?
It usually is, in my experience, and the reason for that is the formula that the assessor uses is not the same formula that the appraiser uses. If you look at the appraisal, I think I attached
for my house, it seemed to be.
So they're looking at recent comps, right? So he's looked at similar situated properties in the region, in a defined region, that that have sold in the most recent past. And so there's discounts or surpluses adjusted on the property given access, given zoning, the lay of the land, the topography. So if you look at the table almost towards the end of the appraisal, you'll see that this land has been adjusted based on what has been sold in the marketplace in the last, say, 6 months. So it's really a real-time snapshot of value based on what's being bought and sold in the marketplace at this time. And the county assessor doesn't do it that way.
So would this sale go through as the $1.4 million sale then?
Well, it'd be documented in the way that it's presented to you tonight. It's documented as a purchase price of 1.48, and then the way that money is transacted is we pay him $750 and we write off $730 to his benefit.
Okay. So I just, because that would be, show up in future appraisals for other things along with the assessor.
Right.
Looking at it that way.
Usually those are called concessions, and they're documented, and the appraiser can pick up on those kind of things. So this would be classified as a non-arm's length deal.
I think it's a dog, and I think if it was, $800,000 with the $400,000 contribution, and we were paying $400,000, I could see some value in it. But it's $70,000 an acre, and I don't know what they're buying land for in West Haven or somewhere where they're building things, but you're talking $70,000 an acre with railroad tracks right there, with springs, with, the Meehan property, the next one. I wouldn't touch it as an investor. I don't know why. You look at something behind Sam's Club. That's wonderful, and that was pretty pricey because Brett Schneider, before he passed away, he said, I've got 100 acres. If you guys want to spend $100,000 an acre, I'll sell you 100 acres. And that's a golf course, stuff like that. But this is, go back there, spend some time back there. And I can't even picture this being something. It's like I was saying last time, if Sean wants it for public works, I could see it having some value, but saying that's going to be green space by the railroad tracks and we're going to do some sort of disc golf course or something, I mean, I'm a solid no on this one.
Other comments?
Especially for this price. Crazy amounts of money.
Is really the thought then to look at this property more for the control, looking at this moving south? Is that really the impetus here? I mean, because I agree with Councilor Arnold or Board Member Arnold that, yeah, the value, this property by itself isn't overly attractive.
That's a good question.
Yeah, so I think what you mentioned about setting the market and essentially establishing a price point that we then have to deal with as a future buyer, that's problematic. I don't think that's happening given the nature of the way that it's written up and my experience. But yeah, it would put us in a prime position to acquire other parcels going forward because we are the head, the top of the corridor there. And I think the challenge is the reuse, right? There isn't a viable reuse plan, and so it's difficult to say it's going to be X, and so therefore acquiring it at this price at this time is worth it. I get that.
The property to the north, and it's presently a water slide on it. Does that need to be controlled for this to be more viable, for the Ford property to be more viable? Meaning, do we need to acquire that at some point to make it more?
So if you look at this plan, part of the reason why this is problematic for him as a current landowner and a potential developer is that in order for this lot to be built on in this manner, it would have to front a street. And it doesn't. It fronts it fronts adjacent property on all four sides that doesn't have a street. The closest street is 600 West on the other side of Classic Water Slides. So as Sean mentioned, there is an easement through Classic that allows ingress and egress, but there isn't a street that allows this to be built on. So yes is the answer. I don't necessarily think that Classic needs to be acquired, but there has to be some right-of-way, either purchased or granted, through Classic that connects this parcel to 600 West to allow it to be developed in a commercial manner. That's not necessarily the case with a park and open space and other things, but if this development or a similar commercial development was to be pursued, that would be the primary criteria.
Are the Mehans aware that we're considering purchasing this property?
I'm not sure what their understanding is, but we have talked about it. We haven't been specific about all the details we're talking about tonight.
I mean, I guess we're in a public meeting now.
That's right.
We did tell them that we were talking to him when we met with him that day. So.
And they're the next property owner, the Mehans are?
Yes, to the south.
How much do they own? Do we know?
I believe it's 9 acres. 8, 9, something like that.
Similar, goes up on the hill part way.
Most of it's on that side of the track, but I think there is a small section that is on the hill. I think the slide was not on their property.
Yeah, the bulk of that slide was not, and what little hill they did have is down on their property now, so there's not a lot left.
That's the one I worry about, because you start digging that out of there and you have some sort of issue. I mean, you take one dump truck of sand out of there and you're going to be looking at any type of event.
Liability.
You're responsible for it. That one's just a bad idea. That Ian's property.
Well, and that's important to know because, like, Mr. Cooper said, if we're not planning on doing anything else, maybe this doesn't make sense.
Right. It makes the most sense to think of this collectively, and they're tied together. Now, out of all the properties south of this property can stand alone. It's not reliant. Its value isn't really reliant on the properties to the south, but the properties to the south, their value is reliant on us owning this property. So if there's any interest ever to kind of follow the general plan and create that scenario where there's an opportunity to potentially do something under the Stringtown design, then this is kind of the front door to that.
I have to see if America First has any leftover pylons so we can.
That would be kind of the nature of it, right? Bunch of retention.
You need to know tonight?
And we have an open project right now to evaluate the Stringtown master plan. Is that what you're kind of getting?
Right. So I've mentioned a number of times, and you all approved the letter of concurrence, I think, in the last meeting, where Wasatch Front gives us $200,000. We add the $60,000 match to it. So that $260,000 puts us into a master planning process. We're just now in the process of procuring that vendor. Wasatch Front has a pool of folks that we can choose from. We're working with a number of them to get under contract through Wasatch Front, and then we'll go through that period of assessment, which is the first part of that process, where we start to look at all the existing conditions, what's here, what we're working with, and then start to look at what parts of the total Stringtown land can be developed, and what kind of yield that gives in terms of buildings and things, and then develop a financial pro forma from that will essentially be a go, no-go.
But we're the better part of a year out for something like that.
We've planned for 4 months for that initial assessment period, and then the final master plan that is going to be the basis of a development agreement, if that's how it goes, that's more out there, 6, 8, 10 months.
I'll make a motion. I don't have my computer in front of me, so I don't hope I get the verbiage right. Is there a resolution or a?
There is a resolution R 2025-06.
I would make a motion that we deny resolution R 2025-06 at this purchase price, and maybe revisit it at a later date if a different purchase price were to come as in this particular, as it's presented tonight, I would say. Is that right?
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Bad
Motion
night
to deny?
Yeah, it's a motion to deny, yeah.
I'll second it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Ms. Maragoni, please poll the board.
Board Member Stevens?
No.
Sorry. Board Member Haas?
Yes.
Board Member Richter?
Yes.
And Board Member Arnold?
Yes.
Okay. That motion to deny passes with 3 in favor of the motion and 1 opposed. So you have your direction.
Thank you.
And very good. I think it was a hard decision. I think Board Member Hanson probably wishes she was here, but I think she might be happy with what happened. I don't know. Interesting. But,
I don't think she was inclined.
yeah. But okay, good work. Any comments for this meeting from the board? from the city staff?
No.
No. And I don't have any either, so we would need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second? Anyone? Second? All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All right, we're adjourned.
Well, you win some, you lose some.
We've got it. We're stuck with that one. Stacy? Oh, no. Stay here for a minute, I got a question.